Hey, welcome back to The Basics, an overview of the big ideas of the Christian faith. I'm Pastor Mike from Time of Grace. In these videos, we're going to talk about the big ideas of Christianity: God, you, Jesus, and faith. And this video is all about God. I was having coffee the other day with a guy who's a little bit older who described his physical condition as, quote, trash. As he was aging, his body was breaking down. He actually had a cane that was sitting on the table as we sipped on our coffee. He told me about his medical visits, his struggles, the problems that didn't seem like they were going to be fixed. And he told me about his day-to-day life. Sitting at home, getting a check from the government, scrolling on his screens. The fun of that experience had worn off long ago. It was a difficult life. His family was not perfect. There was some dysfunction, some distance in close relationships. And as I was listening to his story, just thinking about all the things he was dealing with, he kind of leaned in and he grinned at me and he said just two words: but God. That's how he said it. Like he had left the caps lock on. But Pastor, God, I'm hurting, but God, I'm struggling, but God, I don't know if my body's ever going to get better, but God. When he thought of God, he didn't think of some like vague higher power or, hey, if you're out there, some big guy in the sky. No, the thought of God to him was so beautiful. It put a smile on his face, and it was so glorious and powerful that he could only say it like that, but God. How about you? I'm not sure how often you think of God, but those moments that you do, think of who's ever up there or out there, what do you exactly think of? What is he or she or they or it exactly like? It's actually a fundamental question if you want to understand Christianity and who Jesus was and the beauty of this faith. After all, to be with God or to be in the presence of God, to make it to heaven, is it all that great unless God is all that great? So in this video, I want to talk to you about a biblical view of what God is like. And at first that seems pretty tricky because we can't see God. Right? You can see your friend, you can see your dog, you can see your neighbor, you can get to know their characters and qualities and characteristics, but God is not visible to the human eye. He is beyond us. He's not part of this created world. So how can you exactly know him? Well, the Bible has an answer to that question. And it's something I really didn't grasp growing up, but I want to share it with you because it's so powerful. The Bible says that God is like all the best things of life, just way better. So think for a second upon the past week or the past year. Think about the best moments, the people, the places, the things, the food, the experiences, the ones that made you comfortable or excited or in awe or happy, laughter, joy. Think of those moments for just 1 second. Maybe you're thinking of your best friend. You know, the guy who's just there when you need him. The guys that you have so much fun with when you get together and hang out. Maybe it's your friend who's super wise and she always kind of knows what to say to talk you off the ledge and help you take a deep breath. It might be a friend who is kind or compassionate or generous or hilarious. God is like that friend, just way better. I mean, can you imagine if that hilarious friend was twice as funny? Or if that buddy who gives you such good advice, if he was twice as wise? What would happen if that friend who's there for you in your time of need was there twice as often? Like, can you imagine the people who bring us so much joy and happiness? What if they were even better? That's God. Or maybe you were thinking of nature. Just those moments you have when you're in awe of the glory around you, a sunset, a sunrise, the vacation where your toes are in the sand and you're quiet listening to the waves come crashing into the shore. And maybe you've been camping and you've gotten away from the city, you've just seen the stars bursting above your head, or maybe you've been to the mountains and you've just sat there in awe and in silence. You've seen something that's so much bigger than you, and it's beautiful and it's glorious and it literally is awesome. There's some awe as you look at it. Well, how about this? What if God was like that, but even better? What if the thought of God, the presence of God was better than the mountains or the ocean or the stars? In fact, what if God was so powerful and good, he actually made all of that stuff so you could get just a little glimpse and a little taste of what God is like? And I could keep going, but I don't want this to be an 80-minute video, right? All the good things in life, think of God just better. And in fact, think of a God who lasts longer. The vacation to the mountains is over in a few days, but God is forever. Your friend who brings such joy into your life, she's got to go back to school or he's got to get back to work, but God has promised to be with you always. This is the concept that guy grasped, but God is kind, loving, powerful, wise, holy, perfect, pure. He knows everything. He is present everywhere. This is the biblical concept of God. There's a Bible passage that a Christian named Paul wrote many years ago. Here's what he said. He said, since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, so what are God's qualities? Well, you can't see them. He says, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. You catch that? Like, I can't see God, so how can I know God? Well, Paul's answer was, you can actually see God from what he has made. Look all around you, lean into the best moments of life, and you'll get just a little temporary glimpse of how incredible God is. Okay, well, so what? What difference does that make in your day-to-day life? As you're going to work, going to school, trying to raise kids, trying to work out relationships, trying to pay the bills? What difference does that make? Well, back in 2003, I moved into my very first apartment. I moved out from mom and dad. Thanks for paying the bills for all those years, mom and dad. And I moved into this little apartment in southeastern Wisconsin. And there was no garage to park my car. So if you've ever been to Wisconsin, there was, frost, snow to shovel off before I went to school or I went to work. There wasn't a dishwasher in the apartment, so every day I had to do kind of extra chores. It wasn't the biggest, fanciest apartment complex. And you might think that doesn't sound so fun. That was like a tragic stage of your life. And I would say, there's one more detail I forgot to share, that she was there. You see, June 15th of 2003 is the day that I got married. And my first apartment was my first apartment with Kim, my brand new wife. And no, the apartment wasn't perfect. And yeah, it was small. And no, there wasn't a dishwasher or a garage, but she was there. And her presence as a woman I loved, as someone who was there for me, someone who cared about me, that made all the difference in the world. I loved that apartment because she was present in it. You want to guess where I'm going? Your life might not be perfect. It's a metaphor, but maybe you don't have the nice warm garage or the dishwasher to make things easier. Maybe you have struggles, demons, challenges. Maybe it's your body. Maybe it's your mental health. Maybe it's the family you grew up in. Maybe it's the career that's just not working out. Maybe school is a struggle for you and you can't make good friends. And that would be really sad, a terrible life, unless there was a person to change your situation. Unless there was someone like Kim, my wife, except better, kinder, more powerful, more wise, more beautiful, who had promised to be right with you. And this is actually what the Bible teaches, that God doesn't promise us a rich, happy, healthy, wealthy life, but he does promise to be with us. And if he's with us, and if he's God, well, then we can start to experience what that man at the coffee shop did. My body might be falling apart, but God, my family might be such a mess right now, but God, my life might be complicated. They might look like they have it so much easier, except I have God. And if God is with me, I have a great reason to rejoice. Let me leave you with this. 3,000 years ago in the Bible, there was a king named David. He wrote poetry and music. And he wrote a really famous song called Psalm 23. You should look it up. He talks about how God is his shepherd, and he's like a sheep who's following. And right in the middle of the lyrics of that song, David says something so profound that has stuck with me for a lot of years. He said, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. David had a very complicated life, but he said, I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to give in. I don't have to give up. Why? Because you are with me. Who's the you? God. Where does the Christian faith start? How do you begin to grasp the teaching of the Bible? You start with God. But that begs a question. If God is that good, if God is that pure, if God is that perfect, and if God is present all the time, if he knows everything, sees everything that you've done and the things that you haven't, if he knows the good about you and the bad and the even worse, well, would God want to be with you? That's a question we're going to answer on our next video.